I'm going on a date. Try not to be too jealous, she said, flipping her hair and smiling at her phone, not even looking at me. That's how it started. No fight, no build-up, no warning signs in that moment. Just Kaylin standing in the kitchen, wearing that emerald green dress I hadn't seen in years. The one I thought she donated. The one she once said was too much for me. She was staring into her phone like it was more alive than I was, giggling softly at something someone sent her. She didn't even sit down to eat the dinner I cooked. She just grabbed her keys, slid on her earrings, and said it again, slower this time. Try not to be too jealous. Not I'm sorry. Not we need to talk. Just that. The fridge hummed behind me. A fork slipped off the table and clattered to the floor. I stared at the lasagna I made, her favorite, and realized she hadn't noticed it at all. My brain was doing that thing it does when it's trying to protect me. Like it was buffering reality, hoping the signal would drop. But I didn't ask who the date was with. I didn't ask where she was going. I just said, that's fine. And her smirk wobbled. Not because of what I said, but because of how calm I was. Because she expected something else. A question. A panic. A weak little meltdown. What she didn't expect was that I already knew. She didn't know I saw her Google Maps history last week. She didn't know the guy she's meeting tonight was already on my calendar. She didn't know I moved half our savings 2 days ago. She didn't know I recorded the phone call she made in the laundry room. She didn't know I mailed a copy to someone who'd be very interested. She thought she was starting something. She didn't realize it had already begun. She walked out the door like she was floating. Like she was a movie star stepping into a limousine. Not a married woman leaving behind the man who helped her through 2 surgeries, for career changes, and 1 miscarriage she still refuses to talk about. I stood there, not moving. Not because I was weak. Not this time. But because I didn't want her to hear what was already echoing in my chest. It's done. We're done. Her heels clicked down the stairs of our apartment building, confident, cocky. I waited until I heard the soft slam of her car door before I walked over to the desk and opened the drawer. I pulled out the flash drive. The black one. The one with the password I'd never used until last night. She had no idea I'd installed tracking software on the old iPad she gave to her cousin, the one that never worked right. Turns out, it worked just fine once I had access. Every time she used her hotspot to text Jonas, every emoji, every voice note, every time she typed, "Don't worry, he suspects nothing," face-blowing a kiss, it all synced to that drive. She thought I was boring. Predictable. The guy who couldn't even stand up to a waiter getting his order wrong. She didn't know I'd spent the last 11 days building a quiet little wall around her. A paper trail, a timeline, a mirror. I printed everything. Found it like a report. Put a red sticker on the cover, labeled, "For your review." It was sitting in my car, ready to be handed to someone I hadn't seen in years. Someone whose name made her flinch every time it was mentioned. No, it wasn't a lawyer. Not yet. It was her father. The man she swore she'd never forgive. The man she told me emotionally abused her by controlling every decision she made until she left home at 19. The same man who had now just been elected to the board of trustees for a national religious nonprofit, the kind that doesn't play well with scandal. The kind that runs background checks on its members' entire families. And the man she just texted from the car. "Tell your wife thanks for letting you out tonight. I'll make it worth it," smiling face with horns. I watched her taillights disappear into the darkness, and all I felt was silence. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just this terrifying clarity. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was about to find out how many people she'd been lying to. An hour later, I parked across the street from a place called Wren and Hollow, one of those trendy rooftop spots with valet parking, string lights, and couples who laugh too loud over $28 cocktails. It's the kind of place she once called too pretentious when I suggested going for our anniversary last year. So imagine how it felt to watch her walk in. Not with a girlfriend like she claimed she'd be with when I asked last week about her Thursday plans. No, Jonas was real. 6 foot something, dressed like he wanted people to know he lifted, and smiling way too wide for a man holding hands with someone else's wife. I watched from the parked car. I didn't cry, didn't panic. My fingers drummed on the steering wheel like I was waiting for a song to start. I knew the maitre d'. Not personally, but enough. I'd booked a reservation here months ago and never canceled it. So I called in a favor earlier in the day. Had them switch the names. They were eating at my table. I didn't plan to go inside. But then Kaylin pulled out her phone and took a selfie with him. And I swear, my breath left my chest like I'd been punched. Not because she looked happy, but because she looked young, like she was 25 again. That carefree smile she hadn't worn around me in years. I stepped out of the car before I could stop myself. Walked across the street, up the stairs, past the hostess who froze when I said, "I'm the one who booked the Simmons reservation." She handed me a menu. I didn't need it. I already knew what I was about to serve. When I approached their table, Jonas had his hand on her knee. She was whispering something into his ear when she saw me. And to her credit, she didn't panic. Not right away. Her smile froze. I pulled out a chair. She opened her mouth to say something, but I was faster. "I thought I'd join you," I said. "I did make the reservation, after all." Jonas looked at me like I was part of some prank. "Who the hell are you?" Kaylin's jaw tightened. "Emery, what are you doing?" I reached into my jacket and slid a white envelope across the table. She didn't touch it. Jonas leaned forward, annoyed. "Look, man, whatever this is." I turned to him. "You might want to read that before dessert. Or you can keep pretending she's single. Up to you." Inside the envelope was everything. The synced messages. The hotel receipts. Even the audio clip of her whispering to Jonas 2 days ago. "He'll never find out. He's too spineless to even ask." I stood up, calmly, and adjusted my sleeves. Then I looked straight at Kaylin and said one sentence. "I hope the duck is good. It's the last thing you'll enjoy at my expense." And I walked out. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. The silence behind me was loud enough. I expected her to come storming out of the restaurant. I thought I'd hear those heels clicking down the marble steps. That hissed whisper shout she always used when she didn't want to cause a scene, but still wanted to rip me apart. But the doors never opened behind me. I stood across the street, leaning against my car, waiting. 2 minutes. 5. Still nothing. She stayed inside. That part hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted a confrontation, but because, in that moment, I realized I didn't matter enough to fight for. But someone did come out. Not her. Him. Jonas. He walked out alone, stuffing the envelope into his coat, his face red and locked in that kind of stunned silence men get when they realize they've been playing checkers on a chessboard. He didn't look at me, just walked to a black sedan parked at the corner, slammed the door, and peeled off without a word. No goodbye, no middle finger, just gone. I should have felt satisfied, like I'd won. But all I felt was this weird, cold numbness crawling down the back of my neck. Like I'd just fired a gun I couldn't unshoot. 10 minutes later, I drove home. The apartment was dark. Too dark. No music playing. No TV buzzing. Not even the hallway light she always left on because she said it made the place feel less lonely. I sat on the couch for a long time. Didn't take off my shoes. Didn't move. Then my phone buzzed. Not a text. A video call. From a name I hadn't seen in a while. Lorna. Kaylin's oldest friend. Maid of honor at our wedding. The same Lorna who stopped visiting 2 years ago after a weird argument I was never allowed to ask about. I hesitated before answering. My thumb hovered over the green button, then tapped it. Lorna's face filled the screen. Pale, shaken, whispering like she was hiding in a stairwell somewhere. "Emery," she said. "What did you just do?" My throat tightened. "Why?" She looked around nervously. "She's not okay." She flipped out, broke a glass at the table, started screaming about how she's being set up. The staff had to walk her out through the kitchen. I swallowed hard. She chose this. "No," Lorna snapped. "You don't get it. She's unraveling. She's not thinking straight." She called her father. "I know. I sent him a copy too." Her eyes widened. Lorna leaned closer to the camera and lowered her voice. "You're playing with fire, Emery. You have no idea what's really going on. She's not just cheating. This goes way deeper." I froze. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated, then looked over her shoulder, and said something that changed everything. "She's not the only one lying." For a second, I thought I misheard her. I even tilted my phone, as if changing the angle would change the words. But Lorna didn't repeat herself. She just stared into the camera, eyes wide, mouth pressed into a straight line like she'd been holding this in for years. "What do you mean?" I finally said. She glanced off screen. "I shouldn't be calling you. If she finds out." "She already destroyed everything," I said, cutting her off. "You owe me the truth." Lorna took a breath like she was about to dive into cold water. "Kaylin wasn't just cheating, Emery. She was testing you." I blinked. Testing me. It started as a game. Something she and a few of her friends did after one of their therapy retreats. They'd pick someone in their life they felt stuck with, a partner, a friend, sometimes even a boss, and see how far they could push them without breaking the illusion of love or loyalty. They called it the Threshold Project. That sounds like a cult, I said, half laughing, though nothing about this felt funny. Lorna didn't laugh. She picked you. And it got worse once she realized you wouldn't fight back. You know how she is. The more control she feels, the more she tests the limits. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being a game. I was trying to breathe normally, but my chest was burning. My mind was racing back through the last 2 years, the mood swings, the silent treatment, the random girls' nights, with no photos, the intimacy that vanished like someone flipped a switch. All of it curated? Controlled? Jonas wasn't even the first, Lorna added quietly. Just the most recent. And then, before I could even form a sentence, she said something else that punched a hole right through me. She told me last month that if you ever found out, she had a plan. Something permanent. I froze. Permanent how? Lorna hesitated. You know her father's new position, right? All that nonprofit, PR-polished religious family man stuff. She said if she couldn't keep you quiet, she'd flip the story. Say you were unstable, that you'd been emotionally abusive. She's been documenting everything in pieces, edited texts, fake journal entries. She was setting you up for months, Emery. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't. My tongue felt numb. My hands had gone cold. You need to protect yourself, she said. Legally. Emotionally. Whatever it takes. Get out before she flips the whole story on you. I ended the call without saying goodbye. I sat in the dark for almost an hour, staring at the shadows on the wall, thinking about every moment I'd convinced myself I was just being paranoid. Every time she made me feel like I was the problem. Every apology I gave for things I didn't do, just to keep the peace. And now? Now she was the one with a loaded narrative, and I was the guy with a target on his back. But if she thought I was still the same spineless man she married, the one who'd say sorry just to be allowed back into the bedroom, then she really hadn't been paying attention. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to end this before she got the chance to rewrite the ending. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I sat on the floor of the office, notepad in hand, writing down every moment from the last 6 months that didn't make sense. Every girls' night, with no selfies. Every passive-aggressive argument she left halfway through, only to return hours later smelling like bar soap and unfamiliar cologne. Every weird question she asked me, like she was cataloging my reactions. She wasn't trying to reconnect. She was gathering material. By sunrise, I had 3 pages full of moments I'd once dismissed. But now, they painted a very different picture. One where I was the villain, carefully constructed by the woman who shared my bed. A false narrative waiting to be weaponized. And I wasn't going to let that happen. So I made the first real call I'd made in weeks, to someone who owed me a favor. A man named Dax, who worked quietly in the background of legal messes the public never sees. Not a lawyer exactly. Not a PI either. But someone who specializes in prevention. Quiet moves. Quiet damage control. He picked up on the third ring. You finally calling in that favor? I didn't have to explain. Dax already knew who Kaylin was. He'd met her once, at a company function years ago, and told me afterward, that woman scans a room like she's looking for the next chess piece. I gave him the bullet points. The cheating, the manipulation, the threshold project nonsense, and now the setup. He didn't sound surprised. She's building a narrative, he said. Which means she's already planted seeds somewhere. Texts to friends. Journals. Maybe even therapy records. She's thinking long-term. You need to get ahead of her now, not later. I want to disappear, I said. But not quietly. I want her to realize she lost before she even knows she's losing. He paused. You really done with her? I looked down at the framed wedding photo on the shelf beside me. She wasn't looking at me in it. She never had. She was looking at the camera, smiling for the lens. Always for the lens. I was done the moment she smirked and told me she was going on a date. I said. I just hadn't accepted it yet. Within 12 hours, Dax sent me a file. Nothing illegal, just documentation. Every text she'd sent Jonas that had backed up my case. Screenshots from her group chats where she bragged about training me. A redacted therapist's note she had screenshotted to show friends, claiming I had control issues. Except she'd accidentally included a timestamp showing it was before the incident she blamed me for ever happened. She wasn't careful. She was overconfident. And I was going to use that. By midnight, I'd already created a cloud folder, backed up every file, and sent copies to a neutral third party with instructions. Release if anything happens to me. Paranoia? Maybe. But when someone's rewriting your life like a bad play, you don't hand them the pen. Then I sent one text. To her father. I'd like to meet. Privately. There are things you should see before Kalen drags us both through the public mud. He responded in 5 minutes. Name the time. And please, come alone. That told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't just lied to me. She'd lied to everyone. And now, the first person she manipulated was about to become the first one to turn against her. We met at a golf club cafe he frequented, the kind of place where everything smelled like polished wood and power. He wore a crisp navy blazer over a black turtleneck, the type of outfit designed to signal quiet control. The last time I saw him was 3 years ago, at our Christmas dinner. He gave me a firm handshake and an icy look back then. This time, he just gestured for me to sit. I've got 20 minutes, he said. You asked for privacy. You have it. I didn't waste time. I slid the tablet across the table, opened to a file labeled January messages. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Before you see that, I said, I want to make one thing clear. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to stop a lie before it spreads. He raised an eyebrow. What lie? I met his gaze. That I abused her. That I manipulated her. That she had to cheat just to escape me. Silence. Then he tapped the tablet once and started scrolling. He didn't flinch at the screenshots. Didn't blink at the hotel receipts. But when he reached the group chat messages, the ones where Kaylin and her so-called friends laughed about emotional leverage and how men are easier to manage when they think they're being forgiven, he exhaled sharply, almost like a cough. And that was the first crack. You know how she operates, I said quietly. You raised her. You know what she's capable of when she feels threatened. She told me you'd come crawling, he said. That you'd beg me to intervene once she exposed you. Said I should expect you to grovel. I shook my head. I didn't come to grovel. I came to warn you. She's about to bring both of us down. And if you don't distance yourself, her story becomes your scandal. He closed the tablet and sat back, his fingers steepled under his chin. She said she had proof. Voice memos. Photos. She does, I replied. Of arguments she staged. Screenshots she edited. She's been rehearsing this like a play, and you're one of the actors. For the first time in all the years I'd known him, the man actually looked unsure. I was never perfect, I said. I was passive, weak even, but I never hurt her. I just stopped worshiping her, and she took that as betrayal. He studied me, long and hard. Then he reached for his wallet, pulled out a business card, and slid it across the table. My personal cell, he said, not the office number. If she tries to spin this, I want to hear it from you before it reaches the press. That was it. No handshake. No dramatic declaration. Just a quiet understanding between two men who had finally seen the same woman for who she really was. As I walked back to my car, I saw a message pop up on my phone. Unknown number. It was a photo. A blurry shot of me at the table with her father. Then another message followed, seconds later. You have no idea what you just started. She was watching. She knew. And for the first time in this whole mess, I smiled. Because now she was reacting. Now she was the one scrambling. The message from that unknown number didn't shake me. It confirmed something I'd suspected all along. Kaylin never wanted to win quietly. She wanted me humiliated. She wanted her version of the story to become reality through force, not truth. That photo of me with her father? That wasn't a threat. That was desperation. A cornered mind lashing out. But I didn't reply. Instead, I sent one message, to Dax, with a single word, green light. He knew what that meant. By the next morning, 2 things happened. First, the document folder I'd created, with all the texts, timelines, GPS logs, audio clips, and metadata, was quietly shared with 3 neutral legal contacts, including a family friend who specialized in defamation cases. Not for court, not for war, just to exist, just in case. Second, Kaylin's father released a statement. Not to the press, but internally, to the nonprofit board he sat on. It was short and formal. Something about personal family matters requiring temporary withdrawal from public activities. A clean, polite distancing. He didn't even mention her name. And that, I think, hurt her more than anything I could have done. She spiraled quickly after that. Lorna told me she started calling friends, panicked, trying to get ahead of some fallout that hadn't even happened. She deleted her socials, blocked numbers, even tried messaging me once, a long, jumbled wall of text about misunderstandings and needing to talk. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. I'd already packed most of my things. Quietly. No scene. No theatrics. Just my books, my equipment, and the one framed photo of my mother I kept in the drawer she never opened. I left the apartment key on the kitchen table with a single sticky note that read, "Don't rewrite what you never bothered to understand." I moved 3 hours away, closer to my brother. Found a small place by the lake. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I sleep better now. I eat when I'm hungry. I laugh at stupid things again. I don't flinch when I hear footsteps in the hall. And I finally started writing music again. Not for clients. Just for me. There's something healing about building something no one can edit, twist, or distort. Last week, I ran into someone at a local bookstore. Her name's Noelle. She asked about the book in my hand, and when I mumbled some awkward explanation, she just smiled and said, "You talk like a man who's learning how to breathe again." She has no idea how right she was. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not rushing into anything. But for the first time in years, I feel like I'm living on my terms. So, to anyone who's been made to feel small, erased, or doubted, just know this. You don't have to burn down the house to be free. Sometimes, you just walk out the front door and let them wonder how they lost someone who stayed loyal through everything.